Echoes in the dark. Envoy Zalith Quora watched from the observation blister of the Aurelian science vessel Correlath, uneasy under the glow of battered stars. The Dominion believed the anomalous signal pulsing from Caravorn 3 could mean only one thing: the return of the Void Leviathan, the creature that had hollowed moons and swallowed cruisers whole before vanishing into the rifts between spiral arms. Zalith's orders were simple: confirm the threat so the Armada could respond with cleansing fire. What she had not been told, what the hurried, encrypted message from the surface now claimed, was that someone had already found the monster and chained it. Humans. Zalith had studied them at the Academy, fascinated by their runaway neuroplasticity and mythic capacity for attachment. Yet the idea that a single Terran could subdue the horror that once made Star Kings tremble was absurd. She replayed the tight beam recording once more. Come alone. Bring no weapons. The creature is safe, so long as I am alive. Spoken in trade cant by an unmistakably Terran voice. Part 2, The Man and the Beast. A storm of incandescent dust swept the landing plateau as her shuttle touched down. Zalith sealed her rebreather and stepped into air that tasted of iron filings, following a beacon to the ragged mouth of a subterranean hangar. A lone human emerged, a rangy man in a patchquilt pressure suit. Zalith Quora, he called over the wind. I'm Elias Cade, freelance exobiologist. Thanks for coming. You claim to have tamed the Leviathan, she said, skipping formality. I said befriended, he corrected, gesturing inward. Come. She's anxious. The vault beyond was immense. At its center drifted a creature of midnight crystal and inner starlight. Tales called Leviathans living singularities, but this juvenile watched the newcomers with almost shy curiosity. Cade reached out, brushing a tendril thicker than his arm. Her name's Ruin, he murmured. Zalith stepped closer. Gravitic currents tugged at the coppery fur on her sleeves while emotion rolled over her senses. Wonder, caution, hope. How? She whispered. Not with guns, he replied. She responds to harmonic empathy. Music, heartbeat patterns, gentle gravitic echoes. I built a cage she can leave any time and sang until she chose to stay. Cade's slates showed resonance graphs, lullaby recordings, and telemetry proving Ruin fed on stray reactor frequencies rather than living tissue. The so-called monster was an orphan wanderer who had blundered into wartime space centuries ago and fed by instinct on the screaming engines of starfleets. Part 3, Fault Lines. 4-6 fractured nights Zalith studied, argued, and, unexpectedly, laughed. Ruin traced constellations in floating motes of dust, replaying memories of cosmic nurseries. Each session strengthened Zalith's conviction that this was no mindless weapon but a thinking child. Yet Caravorn lay inside a Dominion exclusion zone. They'll glass the site the moment they detect her, Zalith warned. Unless an envoy declares her sapient, Cade said. That's you. She hesitated. A sapience declaration would tie her career, and perhaps her life, to a single dangerous judgment. But every empathic quill along her spine told her the juvenile titan before her deserved guardians, not executioners. Her decision was forced when a Dominion spearhead translated into orbit without hailing. Dropships screamed through the clouds. Infantry in mirrored suits formed twin firing arcs around the hangar doors. Zalith strode out alone. Stand down. Her voice boomed through external amplifiers. Article 17. The being within is a protected sentient. The squad captain's visor polarized. That beast ate worlds. Because we never listened, she shot back. Inside, Cade clambered onto Ruin's dorsal ridge with a battered guitar. The first chord, a slow soul sea folk tune, throbbed through the ruins. Ruin answered with a subsonic counter-melody that lifted dust in gentle spirals instead of annihilating shockwaves. Helmets retracted. Soldiers felt awe rather than dread. No one fired. Part 4. Tribunal of Light. 47 cycles later, the Grand Tribunal convened on Station Lumen Veritatis. Delegates from 15 starfaring cultures packed the crystalline amphitheater. Ruin hovered at the center, unrestrained save by her own curiosity. Cade and Zalith stood beside her. A Heliox senator whose moons had once been scoured by adult leviathans thundered, "Their kind is a doomsday contagion." Cade answered softly, "Judge every infant by the crimes of dead ancestors, and none of our species would see dawn." Zalith presented recordings of abstract thought, mathematical recursion, and synesthetic art in Ruin's resonance field. The juvenile spoke for herself with a single luminous chord that painted visions of cratered worlds reborn into forests. The final vote was narrow but historic. Leviathans were declared sapient, Ruin placed under sanctuary protection. A joint human-Aurelian program would shepherd juveniles away from trade routes and teach them not to mistake star drives for food. Part 5. Constellations Unwritten. Diplomats who once arrived armed soon brought their children to witness living wonder. Ruin learned to fold space, always returning to the Orion Sanctuary where Cade strummed guitars beneath twin-ringed skies and Zalith recorded songs composed in gravity and light. Terraforming teams followed her wake, planting life where she calmed tectonic scars. Stories of the Guardian Leviathan replaced campfire horror tales in 100 cultures. On the eve of the first Sanctuary Festival, Zalith found Cade gazing over a newborn sea on Caravorn's moon. "The galaxy is different because of one stubborn human," she said. "Because one alien woman listened," he corrected with a grin. High above, Ruin painted auroras across the stars. In their radiant sweep every heart, human, Aurelian and Leviathan, beat to the same newfound rhythm. Not conquest but kinship. The promise of silence. Years passed. The Dominion's tone softened, its endless hunger for control tempered by the undeniable truth. Not all power needed to be feared, and not all monsters came with claws. Ruin's name became legend, not as destroyer, but as the galactic calmer, the living starfold, a symbol that ancient horrors could be healed through compassion rather than crushed under military boots. Cade and Zalith, once unlikely allies, became co-directors of the Harmonic Accord Initiative. Together they trained a generation of envoys, not soldiers or politicians but bridgewalkers, those fluent in emotion, in empathy, in the slow, patient process of learning to understand the truly alien. Ruin grew too, not in size, though she stretched now across kilometers, but in intellect. She composed symphonies in the magnetic storms of pulsars and carved messages of peace in asteroid fields. She was no longer just the galaxy's most feared creature. She was its guardian. But all things change. And some things leave. Cade knew it the moment Ruin stopped humming during one of their night watches. She folded space with the gentleness of a sigh, turning toward some far-off signal no instrument could detect. Zalith stood beside him in the drifting quiet of the sanctuary's highest platform. "She's leaving," Cade said. "Not a question. Truth." Zalith nodded slowly. "Not running. Not hiding. Exploring." They watched as Ruin rose above the planetary rings, a cathedral of light and dark, her gravitational presence bending the stars into soft halos.